A ruthless billionaire's world shatters the moment he sees a factory worker who looks exactly like his missing daughter. Haunted by the resemblance, he demands the truth, but her silence becomes a weapon he cannot conquer. When a DNA test explodes his carefully guarded empire, the revelation exposes not just bloodlines but buried sins of exploitation and betrayal. As his board, his allies, and even his most loyal aide turn against him, the workers rise in defiance, their whispers swelling into chants of resistance. At the center stands Olia, once invisible, now unshakable, whose voice transforms into the rallying cry of a movement. Stripped of power, disgraced in public, and dragged into court, the billionaire faces poetic justice as the very daughter he sought to claim becomes the proof of his crimes. And when the dust clears, the chains of silence are broken, the oppressed stand tall, and a new dawn rises from the ruins of his empire. The factory air stank of sweat, oil, and fear. Machines roared in deafening rhythm, while bodies bent over them like shadows chained to metal. Richard Sterling, billionaire magnate of Sterling Industries, walked the floor in his tailored suit, flanked by his managers and security detail. His polished shoes clicked against the concrete like a gavel striking judgment. "Keep your heads down," a supervisor barked, voice slicing through the din. "Mr. Sterling doesn't like being stared at." The workers obeyed, eyes fixed on fabric and needles, all except one. Richard froze. His gaze snagged on a young woman hunched over her station, her face sharp cheekbones, almond eyes, a familiar curve of the chin seared him like lightning. Emily. The name choked in his throat. Emily, his daughter, who vanished 7 years ago. The girl the police never found. The hole in his life he buried beneath money and power. But no, this woman wasn't Emily. Her skin was darker, her hair coiled in braids. She wore a faded uniform stained with grease. Yet the resemblance was undeniable. Too close, too perfect. "Who is that?" Richard's voice cracked, more command than question. The floor manager followed his gaze and stiffened. "That's just Olia, sir, one of the seamstresses." Richard stepped closer, ignoring the stares of workers stealing nervous glances. "Olia," he repeated, tasting the name like it carried an answer. The girl looked up, startled. Her eyes met his steady, questioning, but wary. She didn't bow her head. She didn't scramble like the others. Her silence felt louder than the machines. "Why are you looking at me like that?" Richard demanded, though he hated the desperation leaking from his tone. Olia straightened. Her voice was calm but edged with steel. "Because you're staring at me like I'm not human." Gasps fluttered among the workers. The supervisor stormed over, seething. "Watch your mouth. You don't talk to Mr. Sterling that way." Richard held up a hand, silencing him. His eyes never left hers. "How long have you worked here?" 2 years, Olia answered. Her hands tightened on the fabric in front of her, but she didn't look away. "Why do you care?" The question stung. No one ever asked Richard Sterling why he cared. He was the one who demanded answers, not the other way around. "Because," he faltered, then recovered with the arrogance that had carried him through boardrooms and billion-dollar deals. "Because you remind me of someone." Her brow furrowed. "Someone you lost." He swallowed hard. The room felt smaller, the noise distant. "Yes." The supervisor stepped in again, sneering. "She's nothing like your kind, sir. Just a worker. They all look the same down here." The words dripped with venom. Richard ignored him, but Olia's jaw clenched. She bit back a retort, eyes burning with silent fury. Her dignity screamed louder than words. Richard turned sharply. "I want her file. Full background. Immediately." The manager hesitated. "Sir, records are sometimes incomplete. These people," Richard's voice thundered. "Do it." A hush fell. Workers exchanged glances, whispers curling like smoke. A billionaire taking interest in one of them. It was dangerous, unheard of. Alia's friend, a young man at the next station, leaned toward her. "Don't say another word," he whispered. "He's trouble." Alia's hands trembled, but she kept sewing. "I'm not afraid," she murmured, though her pounding heart betrayed her. Richard lingered one last moment, drinking in her face like a ghost returned to torment him. Then he turned, striding out with his entourage behind him. The factory roared on, but whispers rose, carried through the smoke and steel. Why her? Why now? Who is she to him? And Olia, under the weight of 1,000 unseen eyes, whispered only to herself, "What does he see when he looks at me?" The factory never slept. Even after Richard Sterling's visit, the machines kept howling, needles punching through cloth like restless soldiers. But beneath the rhythm of labor, whispers spread faster than smoke. Did you see the way he looked at her? One worker murmured. Like he'd seen a ghost. Another replied. Or like he owned her, someone muttered bitterly. Olia kept her head down, but her ears caught every word. Each whisper was a dagger, her fingers stitched, faster, harder, until the thread snapped. Her friend Malik leaned closer. Don't let it shake you, he whispered. Men like him, they destroy everything they touch. I'm not afraid of him, Olia whispered back, though her voice trembled. But I don't understand why me. Later that night, in the glass office overlooking the factory floor, Richard's assistant, Martin, shuffled nervously through papers. Sir, Martin said, I've pulled everything I could on her. But what? Richard snapped, pacing like a caged animal. Martin swallowed. Her employment record is thin. Just a name, a birthday, nothing before 2 years ago. No school records. No ID history we can trace. It's like she appeared from nowhere. Richard stopped cold. Impossible. Everyone has a past. Not here, Martin said quietly. Not when management doesn't care who they are. Cheap labor doesn't need a story. Just hands. Richard's eyes narrowed. Get me more. Dig until you find something. Martin hesitated. With respect, sir, the supervisors, they don't like questions, especially about her. They'll think you're Richard's voice dropped to ice. They'll think what? Martin faltered. That you care. Down on the floor, Supervisor Green cornered Olia as she gathered her things. His breath reeked of tobacco and cruelty. What did you say to him? He hissed. Nothing, Olia replied, gripping her bag. Don't play smart. Men like Sterling don't look at people like you unless you've done something. I did my job, she said, steady but low. Green's lips curled. Keep it that way. Don't go thinking you're special. You're not. You're replaceable. Malik stepped forward. She hasn't done anything wrong. Green turned on him. Watch your tongue, boy, before I dock your pay. The words stung like a lash. Malik clenched his fists but stayed silent. Silence was survival. That night, Olia sat on her small bed in the cramped apartment she shared with her grandmother. The elder woman's eyes, clouded with age but sharp with wisdom, studied her. You're restless, Grandma said softly. Olia sighed. He stared at me, Grandma. Like he knew me, like I wasn't me at all. Her grandmother's face darkened. That man, men like him have taken enough from us. Don't let him take your peace too. But what if he knows something? Olia whispered. Something about Mama, about why she stopped herself. Grandma's hand covered hers. Some truths come wrapped in poison. Don't you forget that. In his penthouse across town, Richard stared at an old photograph. Emily, his daughter, smiling in a sundress on their summer lawn. He placed the photo beside a printout Martin had delivered a grainy ID of Olia from her hiring file. The resemblance was maddening. Emily, he whispered. Or, Olia, who are you? Back at the factory, the whispers continued to spread. Workers huddled in corners, muttering. They'll make her life hell now. She should quit before it's too late. Or maybe she really is someone else. And in those shadows of gossip and suspicion, Olia felt the walls close in. She whispered to herself, voice trembling but fierce. If he wants answers, he'll have to face mine too. The morning light spilled through the factory windows, but the air was heavy. Workers stitched in silence, stealing glances at Olia. She felt every eye, every whisper pressing down. Then came the voice low, commanding, Olia. She looked up. Richard Sterling stood in front of her station, his shadows swallowing the light. The factory floor froze. Even the machines seemed to hush. You, come with me. Olia's jaw tightened. I'm working. Supervisor Green barked. Stand up now. Do you want to lose your job? Olia rose slowly, eyes locked on Richard's. What do you want from me? In the manager's office. The walls seemed to close in. Richard paced. Olia stood by the door, refusing to sit. You look exactly like my daughter, Richard said. His voice trembled between command and plea. I'm not your daughter, she shot back. You don't understand. She's been missing for years. Do you think we all look alike to you? Her words cut sharp. Because that's what your people say. That we're interchangeable. Richard flinched. That is what you mean. Her arms crossed tight. You see me, and suddenly I'm a ghost of your rich little girl. But I'm real. I'm alive. And I'm not her. Richard's face hardened. I want answers. Who are your parents? Where did you grow up? Olia laughed bitterly. Why? So you can dig into my life like I'm a file on your desk. You don't own me. The door burst open. Green stormed in. Enough of this insolence. She's lucky to even be here. If she won't respect you, she's out. Richard turned sharply. Quiet. Green blinked. Sir, I said quiet. Richard snapped, his voice cracking like thunder. The supervisor shrank back, but his glare at Olia promised trouble. Richard turned again to her. If you won't tell me, then I'll find out another way. A DNA test. Olia's eyes widened. A what? I can arrange it. Just a sample. It will prove you don't get to prove anything about me, she shouted. You don't get to take my blood, my life, my body, and twist it into your story. Her voice rang out, trembling but fierce. Workers outside the glass office froze, watching through the window. Richard's tone softened. Please, I just need to know. If there's even a chance. Olia cut him off. You need to know for you, not for me. I don't owe you the truth you want. Green sneered from the corner. Girl, if you talk to him like that again, you'll be out on the street by sundown. Do you understand me? A hush fell. Olia's fists clenched. She turned to Richard. This is who you are. Power, threats, silence. You don't care who I am. You just care how I fit into your world. Her voice lowered, steady as steel. But I won't let you write my story. Richard's chest rose and fell like a man drowning. He'd commanded nations of wealth, toppled rivals, but never had a factory girl stood against him with such unflinching fire. Then you leave me no choice, he whispered. Olia stared back, unblinking. Do what you want, but remember this truth isn't yours to own, and it will break you before it breaks me. Outside, the workers buzzed like restless bees. Malik grabbed Olia's arm as she stepped out. What happened? She shook her head. He wants my blood. He thinks it'll give him answers. Malik's eyes widened. You can't let him. Her lips pressed tight. He'll try anyway. Men like him always do. And though her voice cracked, her eyes blazed. Then, I'll fight him with everything I've got. Night fell heavy on the city. In her small apartment, Olia sat by the window, staring at the cracked streetlight outside. Her grandmother rocked slowly in her chair, humming a hymn, older than both of them. You're troubled, Grandma said. Softly, Olia's hands gripped the windowsill. He wants to take my blood. Like I'm property. Grandma's voice deepened. Don't you trust that man? Men like him don't look for daughters. They look for control. But what if he knows something about Mama? Olia whispered. What if he's the reason she disappeared when I was a child? Her grandmother's humming stopped. Silence filled the room, thick and sharp. Child, she said at last, truth from a devil still burns like fire. Be careful what you touch. The next day, Richard's assistant, Martin, arrived at the factory with a cold smile. Olia, he said, stepping into her path, Mr. Sterling has arranged for a small procedure. Just routine. Nothing to worry about. I said no. Martin's eyes flickered. Refusing Mr. Sterling is unwise. Olia squared her shoulders. My blood isn't for sale. He leaned closer, lowering his voice. It doesn't matter what you say, there are ways. She pushed past him, anger thundering in her chest. That evening Malik found her outside, sitting on the steps. You're shaking, he said gently. They took my cup, she whispered. What? In the break room. I left it on the counter. Now, it's gone. Malik's face hardened. They're going to test it. Without you knowing. Her fists clenched. He thinks he can steal the truth from me. And he can, Malik said bitterly, because that's what they do. They always take. Olia's voice lowered to a vow. Then I'll take something back. Even if it costs me everything. Meanwhile, in his penthouse, Richard stared at the sealed vial Martin handed him. Her DNA. Sir, Martin said quietly, from her cup. She'll never know. Richard's hand shook as he held it. This is wrong, he muttered. It's invasive. Martin tilted his head. You ordered it. Richard's silence was damning. He looked out the window at the glowing city below. Send it to the lab. Back at the factory, whispers swirled again. They say he's testing her. Without her consent, she should sue. You think the law cares about us? Olia sat with Malik at lunch, her tray untouched. They're watching me, she said. They always were, Malik replied. But now it's worse. Now you're a target. Her eyes lifted, burning. Then I'll be a fire they can't put out. That night, she sat with her grandmother again. You can't win against men like him. Grandma warned. I don't need to win, Olea said. I just need to stand. Every time they try to silence me, I'll stand. Grandma studied her, pride hidden in the wrinkles of her face. Then stand tall, child, because the storm is coming. And miles away, in a sterile lab, machines hummed, the stolen vial of Olea's DNA slid into place. A scientist typed, paused, and frowned at the screen. Oh my God, she whispered. Dut. The numbers aligned. The blood screamed truth. Olea was Richard Sterling's daughter, but in the silence of that revelation, Olea herself remained unbroken. She didn't know the result yet. She only knew her fight had begun, and her resistance, quiet and unyielding, was stronger than any billionaire's will. The lab results arrived in a sealed envelope, slipped across Richard Sterling's mahogany desk. He stared at it like it was a bomb. His hands, used to signing billion-dollar contracts without hesitation, trembled now. Martin stood nearby, calm as ever. It's conclusive, sir. She's your daughter. Richard swallowed. Say it again. She is Emily, or at least, biologically, the test is clear. Richard pressed the envelope to his chest. A strange sob tore from him, half relief, half terror. But the relief shattered the moment he opened the report fully. Notes from the lab explained the DNA overlap. Olea wasn't just his daughter. She was also the daughter of Camille Johnson, a woman Richard had destroyed years ago in a ruthless deal that forced her out of her home, her community, her life. Emily had never been kidnapped. She had been taken by his empire itself. Meanwhile, on the factory floor, whispers boiled over into outright talk. Did you hear? They tested her, without asking. They say she's connected to him somehow. No wonder he looks at her like that. Malik found Olea sitting in the break room, staring at her untouched lunch. They're saying things, Malik said cautiously. Alea's jaw clenched. Let them. I'm done being afraid of whispers. He leaned in. What if it's true? What if you are his daughter? Her laugh was bitter, hollow. Then on proof of everything wrong in this world. A billionaire father who abandoned me, a mother who vanished, a life stolen before it began. Richard entered the factory that evening, envelope in hand. The air stilled. Workers froze. Machines fell silent. His footsteps echoed like thunder. Olea, he said, voice breaking. We need to talk. She stood, eyes hard as stone. What now? Another test. Another violation. He held out the papers. No. The truth. You are my daughter. Gasps rippled across the room. Green, the supervisor, paled. Malik gripped Alea's arm to steady her. Her voice was flat, cold. No, I'm my mother's daughter. Richard flinched. Please, listen. I didn't know. I swear I didn't know what happened to her. But the test, don't you dare say her name. Olea snapped. You think a piece of paper tells me who I am? You think your lab coats get to decide my life? Richard's eyes brimmed with tears. I thought I lost Emily. I thought she was gone forever. And now you see me as a mistake you can fix. She spat. But I'm not your redemption. I'm the evidence of your crimes. The workers whispered louder now, bolder. He abandoned his own blood. She grew up in poverty while he sat in mansions. This is justice. Green tried to step in. Sir, let's not shut up, Richard roared, silencing him. His chest heaved as he turned back to Olea. I didn't know. I swear, if I had, you would have saved me. Olea cut him off, her voice shaking. Would have lifted me from this factory, this life. Don't lie. You built this empire on our backs. You knew children like me worked here. You didn't care. Richard's face crumpled. I thought I was a good man. You're not, she said. And you never were. For a moment, silence reigned. Then Malik spoke, voice trembling but firm. She's not alone anymore. We all see her. And we all see you. The workers nodded, murmuring agreement. Richard turned, stunned, as the crowd's eyes bore into him, judgment heavier than any boardroom. You can't bury this, Malik continued. Not with money, not with power. The truth is out now. Richard staggered, clutching the report. He dropped to a chair, broken. I wanted a daughter back, he whispered. Instead, I found my sins. Olea's voice lowered, sharp as glass. And those sins will destroy you, not me. That night, social media lit up with rumors. Photos of Richard standing beside Olea, the whispers of DNA, the stolen tests all leaked. Billionaire's lost daughter found in sweatshop. Sterling empire built on exploitation. The girl who shook the giant. The story spread like fire, and while Richard locked himself in his penthouse, drowning in shame, Olia walked home under the streetlights, her grandmother waiting by the window. Grandma asked softly, "What did he say?" Olia's voice cracked, but her eyes burned steady. "He said I was his daughter. And do you believe him?" A long pause. Then, "No, I believe in me." The next morning, Sterling Tower buzzed with a different kind of energy. Not ambition, not profit, panic. Every screen in the lobby flashed headlines. DNA shock, worker revealed as Sterling's daughter, exploitation exposed, billionaire under fire. Sterling empire crumbles amid scandal. Executives whispered, assistants scrambled, and the board gathered behind closed doors. Inside the boardroom, tension thickened like smoke. "Richard, this is catastrophic," one director hissed. "Stocks are down 8% in a single day." Another added, "The public sees you as a hypocrite." A third said coldly. Richard sat at the head of the table, pale and silent, gripping the DNA report like a talisman. "Gentlemen," he started. "Gentlemen." A sharp female voice cut through. It was Eleanor, the sharpest of the board members. "Do not gentlemen us. This isn't just bad press, Richard. It's betrayal. You've hidden secrets from your own board, and now we pay the price." "Didn't know," Richard's voice cracked. "Didn't know." Eleanor leaned forward. "You didn't know your empire used children. You didn't know one of those children was your own flesh and blood." "Spare us," the board murmured agreement. Betrayal wasn't just personal, it was financial. Meanwhile, on the factory floor, Green tried to tighten control. "Back to work. Enough gossip," he barked, but the workers ignored him. Phones glowed in every hand. Tweets, articles, live streams filled the air. "Look at this," Malik whispered to Olia, showing her a post. #Sterling exposed is trending. Olia shook her head, her stomach tight. "I didn't ask for this." "You didn't," Malik said softly, "but truth has a way of asking for you." At home, Olia's grandmother watched TV. A panel of pundits dissected the scandal. Sterling's hypocrisy is staggering. His empire built on exploitation, poetic justice. His daughter rejecting him. "That's the headline," Grandma muttered. "They talk about him, but not about what she's endured." Back in Sterling Tower, the knives came out. "Richard," one board member sneered, "we've already spoken to legal. If you don't step down, we'll vote you out." His eyes widened. "You can't. We can. And we will. You've made yourself toxic." Richard slammed the table. "I am this company." Eleanor's smile was cold. "No, Richard. We're this company. Now you're its liability." The betrayal cut deeper when Martin, his loyal aide, cleared his throat. "Sir, perhaps it's time to consider stepping aside." Richard turned to him in disbelief. "You too." Martin's eyes dropped. "I served you for 20 years, but the tide has turned. Loyalty doesn't survive ruin." Richard slumped back, his empire collapsing in front of him. On the factory floor, Green cornered Olia. "This is your fault. You've ruined everything. Do you think the world cares about you? They'll chew you up and spit you out." Olia stood tall, her voice steady. "Maybe, but at least they'll finally know who you are." Green's face reddened with fury, but the workers gathered around her, silent but firm. For the first time, Green looked outnumbered. That night, Richard stood in his penthouse, staring out at the city. Once, it had sparkled for him, a kingdom. Now, it looked like judgment. The television blared. "Sterling board calls, emergency vote." He turned the volume down, whispering to the empty room, "Betrayed by them all. My blood, my company, my world." But another voice lingered in his head. "Elias, you're not my redemption. I'm the evidence of your crimes." For the first time, Richard Sterling wondered if this was the beginning of the end. The factory gates no longer felt like prison bars, they felt like a battlefield. Reporters camped outside, cameras flashing at every shift change. For the first time, workers who had been faceless became headlines. Inside, Green barked orders, louder than ever. "Phones away. No interviews. Anyone caught talking to reporters will be fired." But the fear he thrived on was slipping. Whispers of rebellion ran through the workers like sparks through dry grass. At lunch, Malik pulled Olia aside. "They want you to speak," he said quietly. Olia frowned. "Me? Why? I'm just a worker." "No," Malik said firmly. "You're the worker, the one who stood up, the one who told Sterling the truth to his face." They see you as a voice. Her hands trembled. And what if I fail them? Then you fail loud, Malik said with a grin. Louder than Green, louder than Sterling. That's enough. That evening, workers gathered outside the gates, candles flickering in their hands. A vigil, silent at first, then chants rose. No more chains, no more lies. Olia stood at the edge, torn. Her grandmother's hand found hers. Child, Grandma whispered, this is what we prayed for, a day when silence breaks. Don't run from it. Step into it. Olia looked at her, eyes wet. But I'm scared. Grandma's voice was soft but unshakable. So were our mothers, and their mothers before them. Fear is the first chain to break. Cameras caught the moment Olia climbed onto the back of a truck, the crowd lifting her up. Her voice cracked at first. I'm no leader, no leader. Voices echoed, mocking Green's sneer. She tried again, stronger. I'm a worker, I'm a daughter. I am not his mistake, and neither are any of you. The crowd erupted, cheering. They told us to keep quiet, to keep our heads down, to be grateful for scraps. But today, we raise our heads. Today, we take back what was stolen. Green pushed through the crowd, furious. Shut this down, all of you, back inside. But Malik blocked him, standing tall. No one's listening to you anymore. The workers closed ranks, surrounding Green with nothing but presence. For the first time, he looked small. Inside Sterling Tower, Richard watched the live stream on his giant screen. His daughter, the girl he had tried to claim, control, understand, now stood at the center of a movement he couldn't stop. She's leading them, he whispered. Martin, no longer his ally but a cautious observer, murmured, not leading sir, freeing. Richard's hands shook. From me. Back at the vigil, a reporter thrust a microphone toward Aaliyah. What do you want? What's your demand? Her voice carried over the crowd. We want dignity. We want justice. We want chains broken. Not just mine, not just his, but everyone's. The chant rose again. Break the chains. Break the chains. As the candles burned low, Aaliyah returned home with her grandmother. The old woman kissed her forehead. Broken the first link, she whispered. Now watch the rest fall. Aaliyah looked out the window at the glowing crowd still chanting beyond the gates. For the first time in her life, she didn't feel invisible. She felt unshackled. The boardroom at Sterling Tower smelled of fear and ink. Lawyers, executives, and investors filled every seat. At the far end, Richard Sterling slumped, looking less like a billionaire and more like a man awaiting execution. Eleanor, his fiercest critic on the board, stood. The vote is clear. You are removed as CEO effective immediately. Your shares will be frozen pending investigation into labor violations. Richard's voice cracked. You can't do this. This company is mine. Lawyer's cold reply. It belongs to the shareholders, Mr. Sterling, and they no longer trust you. The gavel of corporate justice fell. Richard's empire was no longer his. Outside, the workers marched. The candlelit vigils had turned into daylight protests. Signs filled the air. No more chains, justice for elite. End the Sterling system. Green tried once more to shout them down. You're destroying the company that feeds you. Aaliyah stepped forward, voice ringing clear. It never fed us. It fed on us. Cheers roared. Green staggered back, swallowed by the crowd. The media frenzy reached its peak. Reporters hounded Richard on every street. Did you exploit your own daughter? Do you admit to child labor? Will you face charges? He shoved through them, red-faced, shaking. No comment, no comment. But silence was guilt now. That evening, Aaliyah was invited onto a televised panel. The host leaned in. You've become a symbol of resistance. What does justice look like for you? She inhaled slowly. The studio lights glared, but she didn't flinch. Justice isn't about me, she said firmly. It's about every worker who was silenced. It's about mothers who buried their pain, fathers who broke their backs, children who lost their childhoods. Poetic justice is when the powerful taste the weight of what they put on us. And Richard Sterling is tasting it now. The audience erupted in applause. Clips went viral within minutes. Meanwhile, Richard sat alone in his penthouse, televisions glowing on every wall. Each one played her words. You're not my redemption. I'm the evidence of your crimes. It never fed us. It fed on us. Poetic justice is when the powerful taste the weight of what they put on us. He threw the remote, shattering a screen, but the words echoed still. His empire was gone. His reputation destroyed. His daughter, The girl he once hoped would heal him had become his undoing. Back at the factory gates, workers dismantled the Sterling logo sign, piece by piece. Green shouted for police, but none came. Public opinion was on their side now. Malik turned to Olia. This is the end of him. No, she corrected softly. This is the beginning of us. Days later, the final blow came. Prosecutors filed charges, labor violations, tax fraud, negligence. Richard's name scrolled across every ticker, not as a titan of industry but as a fallen king. And when he appeared in court, handcuffed, the crowd outside chanted Alia's words, "Break the chains." At home, Alia sat beside her grandmother, watching the broadcast. Grandma smiled, tears in her eyes. "Poetic justice, child. Not revenge. Justice. That's what you gave us." Alia leaned against her, voice trembling but strong. "I didn't do it alone. We all broke the chains together." The camera zoomed on Richard's bowed head as the judge read the charges. The mighty Sterling legacy had fallen, not with dignity, but with disgrace. And for the first time, the workers, the forgotten, the silenced, stood tall in the light of justice. The sun rose gently over the factory yard, but it no longer looked like a place of shadows. The Sterling logo was gone, replaced by a banner painted by the workers themselves. "Freedom works here." Machines hummed inside, but not under Green's tyranny. He had vanished the night the board collapsed. In his place, a workers' committee now decided shifts, pay, and safety standards. Olia walked through the gates, Malik at her side. Workers paused, smiling, some even clapping softly. "Morning, Olia," one called. "Our voice," another whispered. She shook her head. "I'm just one of you." But Malik grinned. "One of us who stood up when it mattered most." Later, at home, her grandmother stirred tea at the kitchen table. The news played quietly in the background. Former billionaire Richard Sterling faces trial, his empire dismantled. Grandma sipped slowly. "You see, child, empires crumble, but truth doesn't." Aaliyah sat across from her, hands curled around her cup. "It doesn't feel real yet. One day I was just a worker. Now you're free," Grandma said firmly. "Not because he called you daughter, but because you chose to call yourself whole." Tears pricked Alia's eyes. "Do you think Mama would be proud?" Grandma's hand reached across, warm and steady. "She's smiling on you right now. Every chain you broke, she felt snap in heaven." A week later, Alia found herself back at the factory gate, not for a shift, but for a gathering. Reporters, workers, and community leaders stood together. A microphone was pushed into her hand again. She hesitated, then spoke. "We were told to keep silent, to survive in shadows, but silence feeds oppression. We broke that silence, and in doing so, we broke chains that bound us for generations. This is not my story alone, it's ours. And it doesn't end with Sterling's downfall, it begins with our rise." The crowd cheered, louder than machines ever had. That night, Olia stood outside, looking at the stars. Malik joined her, quiet, for a long moment. "You know," he said finally, "they'll write about this one day. The girl who defied a billionaire." She laughed softly. "Let them write. But I don't want to be remembered as his daughter. I want to be remembered as someone who chose freedom." Malik nodded. "Then that's exactly what you'll be." As dawn broke again the next day, light spilled over the rooftops. For the first time, the factory stood not as a monument to exploitation, but as a symbol of resilience. And Olia, walking beside her people, carried not the weight of chains but the strength of a new dawn.